Welcome back to The Outsider Edge. We're here again, digging into Dr. Revere's insights on economics, management, and psychology, and we're getting really close to the end of Season 2, still deep in his book, Self-Management. Today, we're tackling a really crucial piece, the tracking system. You could think of it as maybe the self-correction mechanism for an organization running on self-management. We're going to look at its three pillars: the environment, the purposes, and the commitments. And our goal really is just to unpack Dr. Revere's full thinking on this, making sure you get all the key pieces.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you think about any intentional action, right?
Yeah.
Anything you're trying, do well. To get better, to be more efficient, you absolutely have to review things. You know, what worked? What did you expect? How did the process go? Learning is basically that, isn't it? It's trial and adjustment. The trial is acting on your expectations.
Yeah.
And the adjustment is trying something new after you've looked back and revised those expectations. You can't adjust if you don't review how you got there.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. Because the traditional way, as Dr. Revere points out, it uses hierarchical control. And there, the adjustment, the learning, it's stuck with just a few managers, which sounds incredibly inefficient. We've sort of seen this theme all season. An organization can't really thrive if only a tiny fraction of it is allowed to learn and adapt, right?
Precisely. Totally inefficient. So sticking with the whole philosophy of self-management, Dr. Revere suggests a tracking system that's split into three parts: distinct, but definitely connected.
Right. So what are these three categories, the ones that are meant to replace those older, maybe slower ways of tracking things?
Okay, so his system breaks down like this. 1, evaluation of the environment. That's tracking the self-management system itself. How's it doing? 2, self-evaluation of individual purpose. This is where each person looks at their own contribution, their own purpose within the system. And 3, peer-to-peer inter-evaluation. And this is where people look at the commitments they've made with each other. So you've got this distributed evaluation, self-evaluation, and inter-evaluation, all focused on environment, purpose, and commitments. And that whole setup is what allows the system to keep doing that trial and adjustment thing continuously. And it fits perfectly with the core ideas of self-management.
That makes a lot of sense. It distributes the learning. So let's dive into that first one, evaluating the self-management environment. How does Dr. Revere say we should, track the health of the system itself?
Well, to really evaluate the system, you need to pin down some critical factors and review them regularly. Dr. Revere's proposal, and you might remember this from the self-management model Canvas we discussed, lays out 10 of these critical factors.
Sure, factors, okay.
Yeah. Things like, number 1, principles. Are they clear? Are people buying in, using them? 2, purposes. Same thing, clear, and actually used as a guide. 3, attitudes. Is there trust, cooperation, a willingness to learn? 4, necessary information. Is it found, shared, kept up to date? Can everyone get to it? 5, essential metrics. Pretty much the same criteria: detected, shared, updated, freely accessible. 6, alignment. This is key. Does individual motivation, the motivus, line up with the organization's purpose?
That alignment piece seems really fundamental.
It is. Then 7, coordination of commitments. Is there a working system for tracking who promised what and if it got done? 8, the decision-making system. Are the methods defined, understood, used well, including conflict resolution? 9, it's the tracking system itself. This whole process we're discussing now, is it working? And 10, facilitation. Is there good internal support for the processes the system needs?
That's a very thorough list. It covers a lot of ground. So what kinds of evaluations do you actually do with these factors?
2 main kinds. First, you can do a diagnosis. Compare your current way of managing to the self-management model you're aiming for. That tells you, how far you have to go, what steps you need to take. It's like a baseline.
Okay, like a starting point assessment.
Exactly. Then, once you've implemented self-management, you do follow-up evaluations.
Yeah.
And this involves getting input from everyone in the system. It's ongoing.
And this is where that Rebecca example comes in, right? I remember reading that. Dr. Revere shows how her personal scores on these 10 factors compare to the team average. Like, if she scores herself a 6.5 average, but the team average is 6.2, that gap tells you something interesting about perception, doesn't it?
It really does. It flags up where individual views might differ from the collective experience, which is exactly where you need to have conversations. And the system isn't just numbers. It explicitly includes space for written comments, suggestions for improvement, which then get discussed, often in facilitated meetings. So it leads to action. The key question for this part of the system is really, how do we get feedback on the self-management system so it keeps improving?
Makes sense. Okay, let's shift gears to the individual level. Pillar 2, self-evaluation of individual purpose. How does this empower each person to check their own contribution?
Right. So while the environment check is collective, this one's personal. It lets each member see how they're doing against their own defined purpose. We touched on this back when we talked about critical achievement factors, the CFs.
Right, the CFs, the bridge between big goals and daily tasks.
Exactly. They're crucial because they make those big, maybe vague purposes concrete and measurable.
So back to Rebecca, how does she use this?
Well, Dr. Revere shows her using her initial point, CCAF self-evaluation, basically looking at where she is now on her key factors. And she uses that to define her objectives and activities for her CCC, the contribution for commitment coordination.
The CCC, like a personal plan for the next period.
Sort of, yeah. The idea is that the objectives she sets in her CCC should directly improve her CS, which in turn should move her closer to fulfilling her individual purpose. It creates a clear link.
Okay, I see the chain there. From CCAF status to CCC objectives to CCAF improvement to purpose fulfillment.
Precisely. And it's a cycle. After a set time, Rebecca does a final point evaluation. She looks at her CFs again. Did they improve? Why or why not? It forces reflection.
And there are specific questions to guide that reflection.
Yes, 4 key ones. First, do I consider that I have fulfilled my purpose? Simple options. Yes, no, don't know. Second, if yes, then how can you objectively demonstrate it with results? And that's where you link it to the success evidences in the CCC.
Ah, the success evidences. Can you clarify what those are exactly? Are they just the metrics?
They're more specific than just metrics sometimes. They are the concrete, agreed-upon proofs that a commitment was met. So if a commitment was launch the new feature, the evidence might be feature live on production server by date X, and maybe internal demo completed.
Got it. Tangible proof points.
Exactly. Then third question, if the answer to question 1 was no, what did you lack, fail, and how would you improve it? It pushes for concrete self-correction. And finally, fourth, general observations and decisions actions for improvement for the next period. And that feeds directly into planning the next CCC.
It sounds very structured, almost like a personal performance review, but self-directed and focused on purpose and commitments.
It is structured, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And while it's self-directed, Dr. Revere notes it works much better with support. A coordinator, a facilitator, maybe a coach, someone to help with the introspection. It just tends to lead to deeper insights than doing it completely alone.
That makes sense, especially when you're starting out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So the guiding question here is, what self-evaluation system is provided for members' contribution, purpose, fulfillment?
Okay, great. We've covered the system environment and the individual self-check. Now for the third pillar, the interactions between members. The peer-to-peer inter-evaluation of commitments. How does that work?
Right. This is where the collaborative aspect really shines. Some systems, like SEMCO you mentioned, they do inverse evaluation, subordinates evaluate bosses, which can be good for leadership. But Dr. Revere's approach is, I think, broader. It rests on 3 core principles for this inter-evaluation. First, timing. It happens formally at the end of a CCC period, though, importantly, informal feedback can and should happen anytime. But the formal review is structured. Second, the basis. This is critical. Evaluation is only based on commitments, specifically those success evidences recorded in the CCC.
So you only evaluate people you actually made a commitment with.
Exactly, and only on the things related to that commitment. It keeps it focused, objective, and avoids it becoming, a general personality assessment.
That seems crucial for trust.
Hugely. And the third principle is peer-to-peer. Position, hierarchy, none of that matters here. The evaluation flows in all directions, up, down, sideways, whoever you have commitments with.
So it's truly about the network of commitments, not the org chart.
Precisely. It all comes back to that CCC document again. The objectives, the activities, and especially those agreed-upon success evidences. In the inter-evaluation process, everyone involved sees the evidence for a commitment. They see the person's own self-evaluation of it, and then they add their evaluation.
So you get this direct comparison, how you thought you did versus how the people you committed to thought you did.
Yes, a clear comparison of perceptions right there. It highlights any gaps immediately. Did you think you delivered, but they felt something was missing? It sparks conversation.
And that feedback then helps you define your next set of objectives and evidences for the following CCC period.
Exactly. It feeds directly back into the planning and commitment cycle. It's continuous improvement in action, driven by peer accountability.
So the key question for this part is,
how and with what frequency is commitment evaluated between members, ensuring that evaluation is timely, commitment-focused, and truly peer-to-peer.
Okay, so we've got the 3 parts. Environment evaluation, individual purpose self-evaluation, and this peer-to-peer commitment inter-evaluation. Stepping back, what's the big picture takeaway here? What really makes this system stand out?
Well, beyond just the mechanics, the really powerful thing is how these three evaluation types are woven together and how they connect directly to purpose, to the CCAPs, and to those concrete commitments. And it's really important to stress this. This whole system, especially the inter-evaluation part, it's not the same as standard 360-degree feedback.
How so? Why is it fundamentally different?
Three main reasons. First, like we said, you're not evaluating the person or their general skills, you're evaluating their commitments. The quality, the efficiency of what they delivered based on what was agreed, that changes the whole dynamic. Less personal judgment, more focus on results.
Okay, focus on commitments, not competencies. What else?
Second, only people who actually share a commitment with you are involved in evaluating that specific commitment. No feedback from people who weren't directly involved. It keeps it relevant and grounded in shared work.
Right. Direct stakeholders only.
And third, the system itself is self-determined by the members. They define how it works, how often it happens. It's their tool for collective improvement, not something imposed on them. That builds ownership.
That really brings it all together. It underscores that self-management isn't just, a few techniques bolted onto an old structure. It's a whole integrated system.
Absolutely. You can't just pick one piece. To make it work, you need all the parts integrated.
Yeah.
This tracking system is obviously vital, but it only functions properly when it's connected to everything else in Dr. Revere's model. The principles, the purpose definition, the decision-making, all of it.
It's the nervous system, like you said earlier, connecting everything and allowing the whole organism to learn and adapt.
Exactly. Without this kind of integrated tracking and adjustment, the self-managed system just wouldn't be able to learn effectively. It would stall.
What's really striking is how Dr. Revere offers this clear, structured path for organizations to build that continuous learning capability. Moving way beyond the old top-down limits, it feels like a blueprint for organizational agility, really. This has been, a really helpful look into Dr. Revere's tracking system, environment, purposes, and commitments. You can really see how it empowers everyone to keep refining things, their own work, and the system as a whole. So that brings us near the end of this episode of The Outsider Edge, and believe it or not, we are almost done with this entire season on self-management. Please join us for our very final episode next time. We'll be tying everything together, a synthesis, a conclusion, looking back at all the ground we've covered this season. You definitely won't want to miss that wrap-up. Until then, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep thriving with The Outsider Edge.